Panago Pizza presents SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
But guys, Michael Bublé watches Steve's video. Michael Bublé watches a Steve Dangle video. Watches multiple Steve Dangle videos.
It sounded like he was pretty up on me, actually. Like I was kind of surprised. I had absolutely no preparation for that. No one was like, "Hey, Michael Bublé might say blah blah blah." Like he just sort of gobsmacked me, and then I couldn't focus for the rest of the show.
So for people who don't know, you were on a live stream with Carolyn Cameron and David Amber.
Yep.
On Sportsnet. And what were you guys doing? What were you talking about? It was the Canucks and Bruins, right?
No, the night before we did Leafs Red Wings 1993 Game 7, and this night we did Canucks Blackhawks from 2011, the year that they played the Bruins. That was Game 7 in the first round, Dragon Slayer, where Alex Burrows, who was all over the damn place that night, scored the Game 7 winner. He had the game's first goal. He had a penalty shot in the third that he completely screwed up. He took a penalty in overtime. They killed it, and then he ended up scoring the OT winner. Like Alex Burrows was moving.
Monster.
In Game
and
7.
Why did you have Michael Bublé on?
He's an enormous Canucks fan.
Oh, okay.
He's an enormous Canucks. I think he's either part owner or majority owner or something of the Vancouver Giants of the WHL.
Way.
This is Cody Franzen. This is not.
Should we buy a hockey team?
Oh, for sure.
Well, we need
is
to have
this
a
our
few
new?
worldwide
Should we get
platinum
season seats for the Panthers?
We need to have a worldwide hit first, I think.
Should we buy the Steelheads? Should we buy the Mrs.
Isn't it like the top 1% of hockey teams actually make money though? Like nobody who owns
junior?
Yeah, nobody's making money off an OHL team, are they? Unless they're like London or Kitchener or
maybe the Knights. Yeah, maybe the Giants do really well. Maybe the Hitmen.
The Steelheads
but
must
yeah,
make
very
money.
few.
Yeah.
The Steelheads absolutely do not make money. There's no way.
There's like 4 people at their game.
So?
Yeah, there was one game where I was in arena host and there was a snowstorm and the announced crowd was 700. And there were not 700 people there. There was no way.
You made it from you would have been living in Scarborough at this point. You made it from Scarborough to Mississauga in a snowstorm?
Winter tires. Like I was dying. I was terrified.
See, what's interesting about this and what you should find interesting about
for $30.
Steve drives like your Nona. When it's sunny and beautiful. So you can only imagine how long it would have taken him to get to Mississauga in Toronto traffic in a snowstorm.
Yeah, I drive like my Nona. She didn't. She simply did not, or swim. Or
so Michael Bublé was hanging out on Zoom with you.
Yes. So anyway, he comes on, and David Amber just drops on him. What's it like to be a Canucks super fan? Mm-hmm. And he immediately goes into, well, like, Steve, what's it like being a Leafs fan? And I go, it's terrible. He's like, yeah. So like, you understand the pain. Like, I watch you, and like when you're freaking out, like I got to admit, I like it better when they lose. And I'm just like, what? Beg your pardon? Yeah. And that was the best Mother's Day gift I could have possibly gotten my mom. Michael Bublé watches my son's internet screaming. I thought was a decent little feather in her cap.
Did you get any follow-up questions? Like, what's your favorite video? How long you been watching for?
Oh, I still got to rewatch because I blacked out. I don't remember. Like, we sort of hijacked the conversation, and like, good on Amber and Carolyn for sort of realizing our budding bromance. Because I think I hijacked at least the first half of the interview. We had him for like half an hour.
That's so cool.
We had him for a lot longer than we should have. We had Jim Houston to start the show. And, you try to get into a rhythm. And he's in Vancouver. And his stream is sort of lagging. I think he was outside. And he's like 5 seconds behind answering our questions. And it was like, uh-oh, how's the show going to go? Michael Bublé is the next guest. Blew me away. Had him for half an hour. Then we had Chris Higgins. Don't remember a thing we said. Then we had Kevin Bieksa. Don't remember a thing we said. And then they actually had to kick me off because Bieksa and Dan Murphy, Canucks reporter, are really good buddies, and they wanted to have them on together at the same time with Carolyn and Dave. But there aren't enough slots on the program that we use. Oh. So I was just done for the night after that. I don't know how the show ended. I think the Canucks won.
Hey, man, is Jim Houston a Canucks fan?
No, he's a Canucks broadcaster. Actually, Adam. No, he is a British Columbia-based national broadcaster. Right.
Well, listen, nothing makes me happier than salty Leaf fans getting upset every time Jim Houston does a Leafs game, because there's this assumption that there's a bias against the Leafs whenever Jim Houston's calling a game, and I just wonder how they don't know that every team feels that about the Leafs every day.
Oh, I know.
Like, it's just
Meanwhile,
like,
bring back Joe Bowen.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring back Joe Bowen. Like, people across
Unbiased
the country
Joe
would
Bowen.
vomit.
Yeah, well, I interviewed Joe Bowen once when I was doing that Leafs podcast, and he's like, "Listen, I'm the local guy. Like, I'm allowed to be a homer," and he's right.
Who in the States is like, put Jack Edwards on NBC? Like, nobody. That'd be insane. Can you imagine? Jonathan Taves, with no integrity whatsoever. Everyone knows he's a terrible leader. Going up against Zdeno Chara, who's 7'5" of man and bear. Sorry.
You sound a lot like him. That's a little
It's
scary.
not bad.
Yeah,
I've heard. I haven't really worked on it, but
the funny thing about it is, what did he say about Roman Polak too? It was like, "Whoa, that was karma," when he got hurt.
Oh yeah, when he broke his sternum. Because of the noted rivalry between the Bruins and Stars.
Well, that's Seguin trade, man.
I know, Louis Eriksson. Shit runs deep.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell that was. I mean, Polak did do something leading up to it. I don't remember what it was at all. But yeah, the guy broke his sternum, and he doubled down. Jacko, put him on national for sure.
Well, then that's the thing. So anyway, the reason I just love bringing up every time Jim Houston's name come up, like, I know Leaf fans that just shudder, and it's like, dude, come on, like we've had the scale tilted in our direction for a while. I think we can be gracious enough to give it up. And
he was the voice of the NHL games for a long time too.
Yeah,
and he was
him and
on
Bill Clement.
Yep, and he was on. I think it was NHL 2006 with I think that was Vinny LeCavalier on the cover.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best ones that I remember. And he was, I listened to him on the TV. I listened to him in the video games. And then I was an intern at Leafs TV, and I was in the press box bathroom. And Jim Houston just walks in talking with his Jim Houston voice that he doesn't turn off, apparently. And I was just
just his voice.
Well, it's his
this
voice.
is a very silly moment in my life. No, I know. But some people, I do work with someone who's like, hey, our sports update, the Raptors. Oh, here one second. Hey, man, what's up? How you doing?
See, it's not you work with someone. That man's name is Andrew Nye.
So what happened? We lost you, Jesse. It was a great screen grab, but basically the internet dropped out.
Was it recording?
It was. So we got up until your story about Andrew Nye.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't say it was Andrew Nye. I didn't say it was Andrew Nye.
When my Wi-Fi cut out, I was saying, it's not a guy you work with. It's Andrew Nye.
Yeah.
And I also sat around the corner from him and watched him put on his broadcast voice. So
because he's got like a really chill, sort of, hey, how you doing? I'm Andrew Nye with your...
Man, when...
That's what you get for chirping my shirts, Andrew.
He's a good dude.
Dude,
he's a great guy.
Him and Rob Wong are two of the kindest people. Alex Sixero, like, great guys. Just genuine.
Him too. They've all been there forever too.
Forever, forever. And they've always been. I've always found that there's certain sports guys, especially when you're in top 40 radio. There's certain sports radio guys who are like, top 40, stupid music, stupid. Those guys were always like, hey man, that's great. And they would always talk to you about things going on outside of sports, which is weird because it's funny. If you like sports enough to work at a sports radio station or a sports television station, you're probably fanatical. I remember in the ESPN book, if you wanted to even get into ESPN as an intern, they have a questionnaire, and you have to be able to answer questions on history and divisions and stuff that I probably could not answer about college sports, the history of the NBA, things like that, which would be very, very difficult questions unless you're a hardcore fanatic, because that's who they want. And so anyway, those guys were always flipping awesome. But Andrew Nye has one of the best radio voices, and then it's flicks, and it's hey, it's just Andrew.
How you doing?
Steve, did you have to take a quiz to work at Sportsnet? Because I did.
No. Okay, so that's funny that you did. So
I'll tell you about it. Yeah.
It's funny that you did. So Doug Faraway, the deacon was in charge of the interns when I got an internship there. And like throughout my whole intern interview, he's like, what do you know about? And in my head, I'm like, nothing but hockey. And I'm like, I watched some other sports, but like I'm not that up on the CFL or anything. And he's a huge CFL guy, big Ticats guy. And he's like talking about his retirement and what he's going to do in the middle of the interview. And I'm like, this seems pretty lax. Then Ryan Walsh, who's like big cheese there now, he got put in charge of the interns, and he was in the studio one day and he was joking with me about like how he's going to have a sports quiz, like to like evaluate intern sports knowledge.
Oh, I know this story.
And he gave it to me. He's like, name 5 Raptors, and the Raptors sucked. And I'm like, Jose Calderon, friggin' Chris Bosh, Andrea Bargnani. And then I said, I said Graham Humphrey. And someone goes, hey, he got it. And he goes, wait, did it say that again? I go, Graham Humphrey. He goes, do you think that's one person? And I go, shit, because we went to high school with Graham Humphrey.
Yeah.
But it was, what was it?
Joey
Graham
and
Chris
Humphreys.
Chris Humphreys. And he's like, oh my God, this guy who's been here for like a year would have failed the intern quiz. And like, I cut Raptors highlights and everything. I just forgot, man. They suck.
Yeah.
No one wanted to do Raptors games back then. They were awful.
I was hired by the executive producer at Tim and Sid, which was John Coleman at the time. So he gave me like a little quiz during one of my interviews. And one of the questions was name all of the head coaches of the 6 Canadian hockey teams, which is fairly easy. Travis Green stumped me a little because I forgot he was head coach on Vancouver. But
that was recent, yeah.
And then another one was name the 4 reigning MVPs from the 4 major pro sports.
Wow.
I don't know if you guys could do that.
Dude, no, I don't. Well, did Kawhi win the MVP last? No, we didn't.
Giannis.
Giannis won it. Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously, I don't even know. Was McDavid the MVP? That's how little I care about those awards. I don't care.
I think it was McDavid.
The reigning Hart. Ooh, see, we don't even know.
I don't know. Like
so it would have been last year's Hart Trophy winner. It's not. That's the year after Taylor Hall.
No, 2 years
Taylor
after
Hall was
2017. We're looking for 19.
17.
Taylor Hall wasn't Taylor Hall.
No, Taylor Hall was the year we went to Boston because we watched a Devils Tampa game when we were in Boston.
So he would have been because
it was 2018. 2018, he won the Hart.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, but it was 17-18 that he won the Hart then.
Yeah. So then year before, so 17-18.
Oh, so you were in the Taylor Hall year. I can't even.
I remember stupid stuff like we were on a bus watching a Tampa versus New Jersey game.
Right.
But I don't remember that.
And the reigning MVP in the NHL is Kucherov.
Right
now. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Oh my God.
Great. That's how little that shit matters. Like it matters to me anyway. I think that stuff matters. I think more to it's like fans debating it, and I think it matters a lot to the players, and it should. But like it's sort of like who won the cup. And what were your results? I don't know. To me, anyway. But the I can't name Calgary's head coach. I'm trying to think of all the coaches right now for some reason.
The guy Bill Peters was fired
for who? What was the guy? And I can't remember his name. Why can't I? He's the only one I can't name.
Is it Nesradine or is that in New Jersey?
No, that's New Jersey, and he's been replaced.
Oh my God!
He was the assistant coach though. Like
I got it here.
I don't know.
Think of Carolina Hurricanes goalie.
James Reimer.
No.
Cam
Peter
Ward.
Mrazek?
You're okay. Steve,
Peter.
you're on. No, before that.
Who did I say? Cam Ward?
Yeah.
Is it Ward or Cam?
Archer Zerbe.
Jeff Ward.
Jeff Ward
is the current head coach of the Canadiens.
Would not have got it. Don't fucking know.
Who that is. Let me look him up.
That's the thing because Jeff Ward hasn't really been a story, right? It's sort of like, unless you're in Calgary and you're following Calgary hardcore, of course you know Jeff Ward. And really, I should know that. But, like, Bill Peters was the story. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what people were talking about.
Yeah, he looks like a coach, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even recognize his face. That's crazy. Right? It's been a while since we've had hockey, though.
I think another one might have been MLB home run leader last season or something ridiculous.
And at that point, for you, it would have been – wouldn't it have been one of the Yankees? Wouldn't it have been Stanley or Judge?
It would have been
Aaron Judge?
Aaron Judge, that year. Yeah. So that one would have been an easy one because you go the whole summer, you hear about Judge, and then interview in like the fall or something. You jog my memory is probably like
that's like trivia crap though. That's fun
though. It is knowledge. It's fun. You're supposed to work at a sports station.
Yeah, they do want.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know. It's the sort of thing you can look up in 5 seconds, right? Like they should be asking you more in-depth stuff. IMO, IMHO. I'm going to tell my current boss how to evaluate people. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
all right,
guys. The Steve
Who's
Dangle
the reigning
Sports
MVP?
Network.
Dude. Like, tell me what you think about the difference in the Leafs power play between this season and last.
I can talk for hours about that.
You can't Google that. It'll take you a bit.
But I think there's something behind it the same way they interview like a draft class and they ask them, hey, if you could be any animal in the jungle, what would you be? There's something.
How many watches do you have?
Right. There's a philosophy behind asking a guy who's trying to work at a sports station who's the reigning MVP. You know,
they let me on the air there, and they never asked me any of these questions.
I guess
the only thing I ever got called out for, and he was right to do it, was Greg Brady when I was doing mornings with him. I said that there was a player strike for the MLB in 1994. It was a lockout.
Mm-hmm.
The owners locked them out. So, and that he's like, listen, he's like, it didn't change much, but you got to know that stuff, right? You do have to be pretty on par with that stuff. And he's right. I was like, okay, fair enough. Let's move on to what we think could be the playoff format. The NHL may skip the rest of the regular season, go right to a 24-team playoff format. What do we think of this?
They might disband, and they might expand to space, and they might go to 35 teams, and they might go to 20. And God damn it! Sorry, Adam. Yes.
24 teams. So it looks like basically, if we were to look at the top 24, I'm gonna go to NHL.com right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go on NHL.com. I'm gonna go to standings, and I'm gonna take it out of wild card. I'm gonna go right into league.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
I'm
off.
just gonna pull
Brendan Leipsic's
the top 24
DB
teams.
page. That's where I thought we
basically. It's from Montreal up, and by the way, Buffalo would miss the playoffs by 3 points even in this scenario.
Okay, when you include those bottom teams in the playoffs, it's ridiculous.
Let's just highlight the fact that Buffalo still misses the playoffs here.
It's brutal. So it's 12 from each conference.
It's 12 from each conference, but if you were just looking at the league, okay, just looking at the league.
But like,
if you're doing 24, it's Montreal is the lowest. Chicago's in, Arizona's in. I think if you're going to go by conference, which we would have to do because you can't have an uneven amount of teams because the NHL is silly bananas, you would have some pretty horrendous teams in for the Eastern Conference.
You also got to do
24 and a half is 12, right?
Sorry,
right?
Say again?
24 and a half is 12.
Yes.
So, I mean, not horrendous, but you have the Montreal Canadiens, which I think would be a fun watch in a playoff scenario because there is a feistiness to the Montreal Canadiens that I think would just be fun to watch and sort of like, I can't believe we're here. Let's just see what the hell happens. And to me, and this is going to sound crazy, but are the Montreal Canadiens in a 24-team playoff round, are they not the type of team that could go on a major run?
They're a little dangerous because Carey Price he gets hot for 3 weeks. They might win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
like that's a fact of what might happen.
That's the thing.
It's ridiculous.
But is it going to be 12 versus 1?
I don't know.
Sort of thing. Because if Boston will murder them.
You don't know that.
You don't
know what these guys have been doing for 2 months.
And that's such a ridiculous factor. It is. Which is why, dude, I'm sorry. If the Montreal Canadiens or Chicago Blackhawks win the Cup this year, it cheapens it.
Only those two teams.
Dude,
if one of the shitty teams who wouldn't have made it if you didn't make up your fairy tale rules wins the Cup, it's bullshit. I'm sorry.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think it's a real cup. It is what it is. Global pandemic throws things into the blender, so you got to do blender things. To me, you win the cup based on whatever tournament's presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
So a win is a win is a win.
You can only beat the teams put in front of you.
Bingo. And Montreal didn't win enough before the pandemic, but that was before the pandemic. So let's have a look at this. So according to both Larry Brooks, Pierre LeBrun, and Elliot Friedman are actually all on this. The format of a 24-team tournament has not yet been established. But if the league goes with the top 12 teams from each conference, that would include every NHL club with a 500 or better record when play stopped March 11th. The structure would include the Rangers and Chicago. So this is an American obviously it's an American article, right?
Right.
It would also include Montreal. If the league were to for some reason go to the top 6 teams in each division, the NHL hasn't had a division-based playoff system since 92-93. That would mean the Sabres would replace the Rangers. The Sabres had a .493 win percentage, and the Ducks would replace the Blackhawks. The Ducks have a .472. And the Blackhawks are just over it at 4.
Now we're going to wins versus points.
It would be division-based. So if you're taking the top 6 teams from all 4 divisions. Yeah. So are you going to do a conference or are you going to do a division? To me, you do conference. Put the best teams in the league, like, in there. Because I'm sorry, but does anybody, like, and even Buffalo fans would tell you, does Buffalo really want a playoff berth at a .493 percentage?
No,
maybe they do.
Nor does Montreal.
Or does, well, I think Montreal does.
No.
But the other thing that's misleading about this article, or at least the way they're viewing it, is they view these teams as over 500 records. And they don't have that. They don't have over 500 records.
Listen, okay, since we're just making
if we're looking at the actual thing, hold on, let me just get this out, Steve,
go ahead.
and then I'm handing it over to you.
Go ahead.
Montreal does not have an over 500 record. Montreal is 31-31, and they have 9 losses in overtime. Montreal is 9 games under 500. Florida, 35-26-8. Florida is a game under 500. Do you see what I'm saying here? And if you go to the Western Conference, so Chicago, 32-30-8. Chicago is 6 games under 500. Arizona at number 11, 33-29-8. Arizona is 5 games under 500. So let's
just one thing on your math. Your math on Florida is they're 1 game over 500.
Oh, they're over 500. Okay, sorry. My math sucks. Sure. Whatever. Yeah. You knew that. The point is, these teams are not over 500.
Sorry. You're right.
They're not. They've lost more than they've won. And if we're really, and Steve, as you said, we're going to shoot a movie in space. We're going to do, expand it to, Europe, whatever you said. You're sort of right in the sense that, like, I know you were being, you drop in the hyperbole, but it is a little bit ridiculous that teams that have lost significant amount of games, more than they've won, would even be considered for this.
Here, I got one. So the Blue Jackets are 8th, Islanders 9th, Rangers 10th, Panthers 11th, and Habs 12th in the East, respectively. However, Columbus, negative goal differential, Islanders negative goal differential, Rangers positive, Florida positive, Montreal negative. So tell you what, Columbus and Islanders, get out of there because you have a negative goal differential. Rangers and Panthers, you're in. And now everyone's shaking your head. I want you to explain why what is being proposed is more legitimate than the random nonsense I just said.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
I'm gonna be conspiracy tinfoil hat guy. You ready?
Why? The answer is it isn't, but go ahead and waste your breath.
The answer is the Chicago Blackhawks need to be in the playoffs for the NHL.
Oh my God, that's exactly what they're doing.
Guys.
Oh my God, that's exactly.
They might even plan an outdoor game in the 24.
In July.
If you're the NHL, if you've lost, you've lost not only because here's the thing, and this makes a lot more sense and has a lot more credence when you get into the details. Yeah. Think about all the teams that are losing the gate money, from just the gate money, the sponsorship dollars. Because here's the thing: if I'm a sponsor, if I'm Panago Pizza, and I advertise with the Steve Dangle podcast, and my expectation is that they're going to put out 90 episodes a year, and we come out and we only put out 75, then they're going to be like, well, we paid for more than we got, so we're going to claw some of that back. And that's the law. They would be within their rights to do that. So if you're Goodyear Tire or you're Ford, and you have a deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning where you take your Ford logo and you singe it into a top of a burger, and you've got a thing, which, by the way, they have, at Tampa Bay games, you can get the Ford logo singed into the top of your burger. Yep, you can. And you've got a thing along the boards that says Ford on it, and you don't get those games, and you've lost those games, well, then those teams also lose that sponsorship. So it's not only are they losing the gate, the money they've already been paid will have to somewhat be paid back.
Yeah.
And that is going to be devastating for teams. So the idea here is to get as many big market teams into the playoffs as possible. You can't get Detroit in. You're not going to get Detroit in. If you did a divisional format, Buffalo, which is by hockey standards, a pretty major market and gets great ratings, if you get Buffalo in, not the worst thing in the world.
Get LA in there.
Yeah, right. And having Chicago in there is a good thing as well, because Chicago is obviously an enormous market for hockey in the NHL, an enormous revenue generator. And so in the sense that Chicago gets to keep its money and gets to bring in a bunch of viewers for the NHL playoffs, especially with NBC. NBC is the Chicago Blackhawks and the Boston Bruins, right?
Just eliminate all Canadian teams. They're all gone.
No, it's not that.
No, they're all gone. No, we need to make money. They're all gone.
It's not that.
Edmonton,
Montreal's getting into
Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto.
Under this,
you're all gone. You're all gone. Sorry, we got to make money.
Under this format, only one Canadian team misses the playoffs. Only one.
Who are they?
Ottawa.
Ottawa Senators.
Every other Canadian team will make the playoffs in this format.
And we can't have that.
And here's the thing.
Get them out.
You're only missing, and they are missing some pretty major markets, but the 3 California teams in the Western Conference do not make it. Anaheim, LA, San Jose. I cannot believe we're here.
And there's no representation there, so we got to
And then you have
which one? Anaheim's top seed. They're in.
You have Buffalo, Jersey, Ottawa, and Detroit. But all your other major cities are in, including the Rangers. You need the Rangers. Obviously, Boston was going to be there. Toronto, Tampa Bay, things like that. We're talking Pittsburgh. You need the big markets in, and you need the Canadian teams in. And so, to me, from a financial point of view, much like when we're talking about the draft, this makes a ton of sense for the NHL. They need to have teams not lose a pile of cash because it affects everybody negatively, including players. And you know what? It's a global pandemic. Why not try something fun? This might be the only time in our lifetime, and I hope it is, that we ever see this. How cool is it? I would love to see Montreal in the playoffs. I'm pumped to see that. I want to see Chicago in the playoffs. You know why? Because it's good for the game. Like, it really is. There's a reason they get an outdoor game every year. And it's because people actually watch. They can actually make money off of it. That's why.
Simply no.
Simply no?
Simply no.
Simply make money.
They should have canceled. They should have canceled the, what was it, the 2004 Stanley Cup? What was the one between Tampa and Calgary? No one watches either team. Bullshit. Nonsense. Get them out. Like Carolina versus Edmonton. What? That's a nightmare. Bullshit. Nonsense. Get them out. Anaheim. Ottawa. Bullshit. Nonsense. Get them out. Good for the game. No. Stop.
It's good for the business.
Can I give some numbers just to back up Adam's point here?
Go ahead.
So the NBA came out this week and they revealed that 40% of their revenue is generated by gate. So they saying that in 2019 or 2020 this year, you're going to wipe out 40% of our revenue, and going forward, probably for the next season, you're wiping out another 40% of the revenue. So I assume the NHL's numbers are along the same line. The NBA may
be higher.
I assume it'd be like 50% for the NHL. Yep. That's so reliant on like local markets. So the NBA's revenue in 18-19 is $8.76 billion. The NHL's in 18-19 was $5 billion. So we're talking like 50% of their revenue is just gone. So that's $2.5 billion out the door for the next year and a half. So in this case, where you're losing $2.5 billion, you can't blame them for trying to manufacture a playoff format where you maximize the amount of just money you can generate. And
finish the regular season.
If that includes including 2014, see, I just don't think that's possible, though.
Yeah,
why?
Because
the NBA is going to go.
You can play 2 months of playoff. Why can you not finish the regular season?
Because you can divisionalize the playoffs, right? If you have to travel a team back and forth and all over, or if you have to house these teams in hub cities, depending upon what they're going to go with, because there's not going to be any home and away games.
How are they doing the playoffs? Games. How are they doing them?
They're doing them in empty arenas.
Okay.
And they're doing them in the same city. So there'll be like 3 or 4 cities, and all the divisional teams will huddle in those cities. And then once the second round's done, then the conference teams will get together. They'll be in those cities, and then the finals will be played in it's going to be like the Super Bowl. There are no home games. So to wrap it up and finalize this, Jesse, are you in or out on the 2014 playoff format?
I am in because I don't see another feasible way. Ideally, I say you finish out the regular season, you get to a point where everyone's played the same amount of games. So I'd say you get to like 75 games or something like that for everybody. And then there's a little less arguing amongst the fans. And then you do your 16-team playoffs. But I don't see right now, nobody's proposed that. So I don't know if it's possible. So I'm in on 24 teams.
Steven, I think I know the answer to you.
I'm a little bit out, but I think we might be closer to this than you think, because just now, actually, there were tweets, and it was even in his Instagram story. Kasperi Kapanen and of course it was Kasperi Kapanen, posted a video of him flying into what looked like Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto.
Fantastic.
So
my cheeks are clapping. You know what I'm saying?
The Raptors are back to work today, so
yeah, that's right. That's right. So you're right. And I will ask myself, Adam, are you in or are you out on the 2014 playoff thing? Adam, great question. In fact, wow, such a well-hosted question. Such a handsome question that you would ask that, Adam. Thank you, Adam.
Big bootied question.
Big bootied. Enormous. Well, that's not even, that's an understatement. No, I think I'm in. And I'll tell you why. A, I think it solves the money issue for the NHL. B, I love chaos. I love chaos. And the NHL is chaos, and it's good for the, more chaos, better. And I think C, it gets us back to hockey, and there's none of the bullshit where teams that were on the fringe, because there's going to be hardcore fans on the fringe, even fans of the Montreal Canadiens, who are going to be like, listen, we would have gone on a tear. It was going to look really good there. We would have made the playoffs. And I think, maybe not Montreal as much, but if it gets like you get into those teams like the Islanders, I think were on the fringe, were they not?
Here, let me look at exactly.
If you look at if you get rid of the idea that any NHL fringe teams were robbed, I think that you are probably doing yourself a big favor.
The East is like, here, maybe this is more fair. Okay. Since they're eyeballing it. Like, by doing 12 teams, they got to that number by eyeballing it.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be even. Okay?
No,
like East and West.
Yeah.
So you come up with something where, and Habs fans are probably going to hate this, I don't care. Cut it off at the Panthers. They had a shot. You didn't. You suck. Go home. Habs, 71 points in 71 games. Panthers, 78 in 69. They had an absolutely legitimate shot at making the playoffs. They'd play one fewer game than the Leafs, and they were 3 points back.
Yep.
That's the team with the shot. Montreal, get out of here. 99 times out of 100, that doesn't happen. Let's eyeball the West. The West is a little bit more interesting. Dallas in the Central, 82. Calgary in the Pacific, 79. And the two wildcard teams, 80 and 78. So 78 is your eyeball number. It's not as clear-cut in the West. Right. So the Blackhawks, 6 points back. Should they be in it?
I mean, yeah. I think
it makes Chicago having a shot at the playoffs in the West makes a lot more sense than having Montreal get a shot in the East. Just to have an even number? Like,
I think you do have to have an even number, though, not just for television rights, but also like just teams matching up, playing each other.
Seeding, yeah.
Maybe, but so, you know what? Montreal is by far the luckiest team,
and that's fine
out of that bunch.
And you know what? Some team is going to go on a run, and they're going to be the luckiest team after they've gone on that run. And I think at this point, like we've all been through a global pandemic. Is anyone truly lucky? I think it's sort of like we just play some fucking hockey. You know what I mean? And so if that's what it takes, and it's weird to me. Let the Canadiens in. It'll be fun if they go on a run. I'll love seeing people lose their absolute minds when the Montreal Canadiens go on a run because Carey Price decides to stand on his head and play like he did at the Olympics. And I think it'll be it's anything different to watch is an opportunity. Playoffs are already spectacular. Imagine a couple extra rounds of them.
I will say this with some self-awareness. Thank goodness Gary Bettman is in charge of something like this instead of me. Because I'd be like, well, okay, so-and-so is a little upset, and how can we fix this? How can we fix Gary goes, F you. This is what it is. We're done.
Right. The rest of you suck.
The rest of you shut up.
Yep.
The rest of you shut up. This is what we're doing. So I'd rather have him in charge than someone who's going to be wishy-washy and worry about feelings. Because you're right. As much as I hate this in terms of like just competition, you do got to decide on something. I do acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So if the
option
is this or cancel the season, this.
Nobody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to be 100% happy either way, right? The only way people are 100% happy is if they finish out the regular season on time with the schedule, but that's not possible.
With fans in the arena 2 months ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some dickhead who's like, the Blackhawks in 2013 doesn't count. Like,
sure. And you know who it counts to?
Jesse.
Everybody, except for Jesse. Now, Brendan Leipsic was waived, put on a unconditional waiver, for a buyout. Obviously, if you've missed this story, essentially, from what we understand and what we know, an account appeared on Instagram several days ago. It was over the weekend. And what this account contained...
As we were recording.
Or was it last week? Oh, my God, it was Wednesday last week. Okay, so what this account entailed... and contained within it was a group conversation between Brendan Leipsic, his younger brother, Jake Rodwald of the Panthers organization, I believe.
Yes, formerly of the Sens.
Formerly of the Sens. And Jack Rodwald.
And Marley's, actually.
And Marley, okay.
Yeah.
He's only played 10 games in the NHL, so if you don't recognize the name, understandable. Yeah. But basically, these conversations were pretty ugly. There's no other way to describe them. They were very, very ugly. And in the conversation, it went from everybody. It talked about everything from Tanner Pearson's wife and her weight to
Connor McDavid's girlfriend.
Connor McDavid's girlfriend and bruises on her legs, I believe. And there was a pregnancy picture that they were bashing. Basically, kind of the most. It's highlights of probably one of the most toxic conversations I've ever seen. Now, we've all said and done things on group conversations that we sure wouldn't want anybody to put out in the public. However,
sorry, Adam, before you go and get yourself into a big old bunch of trouble there.
Well, that's where I'm going to continue.
Sure, then go ahead. You go ahead.
That excuses nothing. And when you're in when you're talking about, like, listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think most people speak like these guys were speaking. There were people that came out and said, "Yeah, I've said some stuff that I would regret." Yeah, man, me too. I've never said anything like that.
Yeah, there's a
pregnant woman.
Never. Never.
Yeah, there's a difference between, I think, what they were saying and just like general talking shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what are you saying? You've never talked shit? Of course I've talked shit. I talk shit all the time. I talk shit publicly. Forget private. I do it into a mic, in your face. Mm-hmm. But the stuff they were saying was wild.
There's a word for it, and it's hateful.
Yeah.
It's hateful. It's discrimination. It's discriminatory. It's mean. It's mean-spirited. And it comes from a place where you almost can't – it's so toxic that you almost feel like anybody that would speak like that over a sustained period of time, not kidding, probably needs a lot of help.
It seemed bitter.
Oh, it's 100%. It's
very bitter.
And it speaks to, I think Justin Bourne had a really good, I watched a conversation that he and Faisal Khamisa had on sportsnet.ca.
Yeah. And that couldn't have been easy for Justin because he knows
Brendan Leipsic.
He knows Brendan Leipsic, right?
And let me just point this out. And they pointed this out at the beginning of the interview. Faisal's like, I know you worked with him, but we're not going to talk about that. And I was really pissed about that as a viewer. I was like, they should be talking about that. They should be talking about that. Justin Bourne, I love Justin.
There's a lot of moving parts there.
There's a lot of moving parts there. But you got to talk about this. Now, if Justin was like, hey, man, I've never seen that, and that surprises me, like, then that's the thing. But you knew him. So that, for me, I was like, I wanted to know that answer. But beyond that, I think it comes from a place, and Justin had an article in The Athletic about this, and he had a really thoughtful response to Faisal Khamisa about this. And by the way, that's no disrespect to either of them. I understand that this is hard. I'm just telling you, I wanted to know the answer.
You wanted to hear more.
What Justin said was the conversations in hockey and the attitudes in hockey from what he's seen, and he's been pretty close to it for a long, long time. This is an ECHL player, right? He got as close as you could get.
In AHL, Div 1 college. Yep.
So he said that in the last 10, 15 years, he's seen an enormous change in the way pro athletes speak, talk, conduct themselves. Hockey players specifically, because that would be the thing. And he said in his article in The Athletic today, and I really encourage you to read it because I think it's very, very good. It's not that this is a hockey-wide problem necessarily, but the fact that it's a part of hockey is a problem. There's no place for it at all. And he said, you know, if you have 700, 800 employees in any organization, there are going to be some of them that say some terrible shit.
Of course.
Right? That's just what it is. And this was outed. The point here is that we're working towards finding a time and a place where this is not something that happens at all. Everybody's working towards that. And so I think, you know, when we're looking at this from that lens, it's like, okay, so this is the worst of probably, you hope the worst of the worst. And I wonder, my frustration is with this. I don't think it's fair to characterize, and this is just my opinion, hockey culture as this. I think it is fair to characterize a certain machismo male culture like this. I think it's a lot bigger than hockey culture. Most of hockey culture is families going to games at 6 a.m. Most of hockey culture is not the NHL. Most of them are dads, you know, dads and moms going to 6 a.m. practices on a Sunday morning in a shitty arena. That's hockey culture.
With terrible coffee.
Yeah.
I think back to the Way to Go Paul video, because all you see is a crazy hockey parent banging on the glass and shattering the glass, and then a guy goes, "Way to go, Paul," because it's Paul. You heard Paul. Paul was the loudest. Paul was the biggest dickhead, and obviously notorious enough that a parent felt comfortable going, "Way to go, Paul," because Paul was the big problem. So, you know, it might be hockey parents, but in the same way that you have enough people in an organization, you're going to get a few dickheads. You know, if you get, you know, 40 kids together or whatever, 45, 50 kids together, there's the coaches, there's all the parents. They got at least one parent there each, or guardian, someone there with them. Yeah, you're going to get some dickheads.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, I've got a big family. You got a big family, Jesse. You've got family. Like, I don't know how big your family is. I really don't. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Jesse blind spot. He doesn't talk about himself.
One day, Jesse he appeared.
But yeah, he just appeared. And no, but I know Jesse's dad and I know Jesse's sister. But like, anyway, the point is,
I think you're getting distracted from the
I am.
point.
And the point is,
what do you mean?
How many people how many people can name a bad egg in their family? Someone that they're like, you know what? I don't like being around you. I know
I have deleted people off Facebook. Yes.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Totally.
And I think if you put it in those terms, you understand how widespread this is. And so when people characterized it as hockey culture thing, I think it's a culture thing. And we're working to change attitudes, and I think there's progress being made, but you're going to have things like this. And the view I look at, you know, again, it's easy for me because I'm not the targeted person. However, I look at this and go, that's a person that needs help. Bad. All those guys. Not only do they need to have some training on empathy, but there's obviously some pretty nasty feelings deep down that they're carrying with them every day. And that doesn't excuse the action, but you got to look at the source of that. What's the fountain in there? And to me, and I'm, you know, I guess this is going out on a limb here, but it's a pretty easy limb to go out on. There's obviously something going on much deeper than that. That's where that kind of shit comes from to me.
Maybe, you know, this could be unfair to Brendan Leipsic just because I'm, I guess, extrapolating. But remember speaking of stuff that we talked about every show for months on end, I ranted and raved that the Leafs should not let Brendan Leipsic go. Because he was putting up wicked numbers with the Marlies. He was a great player. He had that short little stint, scored his first goal against the Vancouver Canucks. Dickie Clune assisted. It was on Ryan Miller. His parents were there. That whole nice moment is gone now, by the way. Remember, his parents were in the stands, and the guys high-fived them in Canucks jerseys, and it was this beautiful moment. That's all gone. But just extrapolating, he's been part of 5 organizations over the past 4 years, and 6 organizations over the last 6. I don't know. I don't think talent was an issue, but now looking at this and looking at that, sometimes when a player pings around, it's just they pinged around. Other times it might be something else. Right. This might be something else. And there was a legitimate conversation going on of if we find Alex Ovechkin's phone and we go through it, and he says the exact same things. He's not getting his contract terminated.
No, he's not.
Who's a fourth liner on the? Well, okay, if we catch Garnet Hathaway, who was actually slandered in these private conversations, are they going to terminate his contract? I just thought it was interesting because if it was about the act, you're going to do it to every player, but we know that didn't be the case.
Well, didn't Backstrom get caught doing coke on camera last year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Kuznetsov?
that. It was Kuznetsov who denied it anyway.
But then admitted to it later.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
So
remember. No. He got, I think he was caught.
Doing drugs and saying hateful things and mean and awful things about people are, I think they're a little bit different.
I'm not relating the two.
No.
Yeah. And there's a suspension for that, is there not?
Yeah, I think
with Kuznetsov. Isn't there like something in the CBA with
he got, I think it was a team issued suspension, I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
the point here,
but they moved the goalposts on those as well.
Yeah, sure. And I think I think what that can do, I mean, with a guy like Brendan Leipsic, it sounds like they'd had problems before. If he was that easy to cut loose, then probably, I mean, you as an organization, as a business, you weigh an employee's value to your organization. And this publicity hit, like the Capitals, if you were to say Ovechkin has won a cup and he's done things and he's scored a bunch of goals and that sort of thing. And people will be like, well, he needs to go to empathy training and he needs to do this and he needs to do that and whatever. And he needs to improve and show some damn receipts, right?
But this fourth liner healthy scratch grocery stick, they go.
He's disposable. He's proven that time and time again with the way his career's gone that he is disposable. And I think sometimes we undervalue the good locker room guy. Like there's a reason that we see management in any team environment just they pump up the person who could just works good in a team. And you see it happen in pro sports all the time. Just a good locker room guy gets a contract because he is that guy. He might be less skilled than another performer. Clune. Right. But if you have a guy who's more skilled than that guy, but he doesn't get along with his teammates, you don't want him around.
No.
And unfortunately, with this coming out, you see that in Leipsic.
The Leafs
doesn't get along with his teammates.
The Marlies had a guy, it wasn't Clune, I got to look it up, who actually had it in his contract. I think it was his AHL contract. The amount of call-ups the Leafs get. Was
it Thompson or something?
I gotta look. I'm looking at.
I remember that $5,000 for every call-up.
I think it was 10.
Okay,
and he played like 8 games for them. It was something completely ridiculous. I don't even know if he registered a point.
And I think they paid him like $300,000 base too. Like it was a pretty solid AHL deal. It's good money.
Yeah, because he was. I don't know. He was like a weight. He was like a weight coach who played. Mm-hmm. kind of Justin Johnson, I think it was. Yep, that's him. Justin Johnson, who actually did play 2 NHL games. Yeah, he played 8 games, 1 assist, 36 penalty minutes as a member of the Toronto Marlies. But supposedly a wicked dude.
Yeah, my whole point is just being a good teammate means something.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to discuss something that's important here.
Yeah.
Leipzig did issue an apology of sorts, but the way it's worded really pissed a bunch of people off. And I think that's right. This apology sucks. Let's just put it that way.
It's legendarily bad. Yeah.
I fully recognize how inappropriate and offensive these comments are, and I sincerely apologize to everyone for my actions. I'm committed to learning from this and becoming a better person by taking the time to determine how to move forward in an accountable, meaningful way. I'm truly sorry. Now, the issue a lot of people take with this is, first off, the way it was posted, which was clearly a screen grab from his agent.
It's so bad.
Because, most of the time when you have an issued apology, somebody does it on like on Notepad on their phone, and then they post it online. This one, the way it looked was like it was like if you were to
he cropped it like a 50-year-old who's just on their first smartphone.
Yeah,
no offense.
And so
I have parents.
So there was that, and I mean, I think in certain situations, people aren't going to accept your apology yet, man. You know what I mean? I think you have to apologize anyway. But if you're committed to learning from this, I think people would want to say, okay, well, how? How are you committed? What are you doing? Like, if he had said in that, I have signed up for counseling, there's clearly some issues I have to work on. I think people would at least, they'd still say, yeah, man, still fuck you. But I still think they'd at least be open to it. And I think the problem that really bothers people here is that the reason that he's doing this is not because he actually wants to be a better person. It's because he was caught.
Right.
And people will always take issue with that. You knew this was a problem before. These guys knew, and these guys all knew what they were saying and how negative and awful that could be. And they felt like a bunch of bad boys, just me and my bros talking. Oh, I feel like such a fucking cool guy. Well, here's a cool guy that probably has to play in Russia next year. His brother got kicked off his team in Minnesota, I believe. Jeremy.
Jackson
Sorry, University of Manitoba.
Was it Jackson Keene who got kicked off his team as well? Or was
he?
The Boyd got
Jack Rodwald, I was looking for any sort of punitive punishment against him, but he's just probably never going to see the show. He's played 10 games. The Panthers are pissed, but we haven't heard anything. There's been nothing. And I think it's just because his contract will be up and good luck, man. See you later.
The problem takes care of itself or whatever.
Right.
Maybe
right. It's just
someone threatened something. I don't know.
It's just sort of don't show up. The wrong attitude to have is the attitude Brett Hull had when he went on Hockey Central. Now,
this is an all-timer.
Now, let me preface this by saying, if you're looking for somebody, if you're a socially progressive person, or I don't know, a normal person who wants people to be treated with dignity, because this is what people are like, socially progressive. Nah, just people who want to treat people properly. That's all it is. If you're looking for that view from Brett Hull, you're looking in the wrong place. You know that. You know.
Well, I'm sorry. We went Blues guy.
Yeah.
Maybe had a bad opinion on something.
Brett Hull's always had a slant like this, right back from his playing days. And Brett Hull's always been bitching about how the NHL is not as fun as it used to be. And even when he was playing and scoring 50 goals a season, he was bitching about how the NHL is not as fun as it used to be. This is a guy who's just not going to be happy with how the NHL is, except for when the Blues win the cup and he's hammered giving a speech on stage. So here's what Brett Hull had to say, and I think it's important that we talk about it, because it is a point of view that a lot of people had, whether I disagree with it or not. Hall of Fame sniper Brett Hull believes the social media age has sucked the enjoyment out of hockey, because that's the real problem here, guys. It's social media. Brett said, we did the same things. We said the same things, but there's no way to get caught. He said on Hockey Central on Friday. We can go out after games. We can go to strip clubs. We can go to bars. We can do whatever we wanted, and it would all be hearsay. The fun is gone. The game is not fun anymore. Now,
no one said you can't do any of those things.
Right.
Except for the first one.
Here's the key. He said, but there was no way to get caught. That's the key to the statement right there. We could be shitty, awful people, and there was nothing that anybody could do about it. Yeah. And I just missed the days when I could be a shitty, awful guy, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. I miss pre-law society. I miss the days when I could just go shoot someone in the head and nobody could fingerprint me. Those are days. Damn, that was fun, wasn't it?
I too miss the Vanderlyn gang.
Right.
I also miss that.
Yeah. Pre-Pinkerton agency. That's when things were good.
There's an enormous difference between this incident, for example, and the Ottawa Senators Uber incident.
Yes.
Two incidents where groups of hockey players, professional hockey players, some, were talking mad shit. And the text in this case and video in that case were released under suspicious circumstances.
Dubious,
yeah. And then the conversation, you can have a conversation about privacy and everything. The Sens, everyone was like, oh, they got caught talking shit about their coach. But like, there's a pretty big difference between calling people what that group, with the Leipsic group, called the people they were talking about, and I don't like such and such's penalty kill setup.
Huge.
There's an enormous difference. And also, like, I don't even know if should I say, I've heard how the information got out there, or how the text. No.
I would. It's hearsay.
Yeah,
it wasn't hacked, but
right. It wasn't hacked, probably.
No.
But Allegedly. Who knows? The reality is, guys, that I mean, I don't have to like, here's the thing when we do these segments, I always wonder, I'm like, do I need to start off the segment by saying, this is bullshit, you shouldn't have said it, you shouldn't think it, and we all think this is wrong. I don't think we need to say that. I think you know where we stand on that stuff. But I think there has to be, I do disagree with the premise when I see guys like John Tavares and Sidney Crosby and guys like this who are truly good people being lumped in with Brendan Leipsic. I don't like the idea that all of hockey culture is like that. I do, however, believe that incidents like this make people feel not welcome in the hockey community. It might be a small vein of it, but if you don't like one person at a party, it might make you question. Like, imagine you hate somebody who's treated you horribly at a friend's birthday party, treated you terribly. Like, however, the worst bully you could think of that you had growing up, and your friend is friends with this person, and you know they're going to be at a party tonight that you're supposed to go to at your friend's house. Are you going to the party?
No.
Or are you considering not going?
If you're like, oh, Stu's going to be there, I'm not going.
Exactly.
Stu.
Fucking Stu.
I don't have the energy for Stu.
Exactly.
So you need to understand that even if this is a small, tiny 1.11111% of hockey, that's too much.
Yeah.
And even if this is a small 1.1111% of toxic masculinity, it's too much.
I will say,
much.
like, hockey's got an issue that they're working on. I reject the idea that hockey's worse than any other sport. Like, with regards to that.
Was that claimed?
No, well, I don't know.
It's also, it's not a competition. We're not measuring anything. There are no stats about who's bad. It's not, we're not comparing it to anything. It's just, it's not right.
Right. And you have to, and again, easy for me to say because I wasn't targeted, but I have to tell you, I almost pity the pain that I perceive is behind those comments. I just don't think if you are a healthy, balanced human being that you are saying anything close to that. I just
know
don't.
What you mean.
And I think that comes from a place of severe self-hate, frankly. And that's something that I wish them all luck dealing with, because they're going to need to deal with that. Otherwise, they're just going to be walking around with it their whole lives. That's what it is. On a human level, people just don't talk like that if they're completely happy or they're completely, everything's good inside. There's science that proves that. And so I think, you could take Brett Hall's regressive attitude and apply it to all of hockey, and you'd be wrong. Brett Hall is not even a close to what hockey is like now. He wasn't even close to hockey when he was in hockey.
And still only the second worst Hull.
It's crazy, isn't it? I think we've got to remember here that this is the smallest of the small percent, but even that is too much. We want people at this party. The NHL is too small as it is. We need it to be bigger, and we want to involve everybody. And this is the kind of shit that when this comes out, it's bad for the game. It's bad for the PR. And guess what? It's hard to move on from a news perspective because there's nothing fucking happening. Sometimes you see stories like this pop up and they move on. But, Jesse, you mentioned this about a month ago. We've had a tough season with this shit. All varying different levels of dirty laundry aired. The most severe in my mind being still the Bill Peters situation.
Yeah.
And then this is like right there with it. And then you have, several rungs down, Don Cherry, and then several rungs below that. Not really even several rungs down, maybe a rung down, Don Cherry. And then you have several rungs down from that, way down on the severity scale, but still the Babcock-Marner thing. There's a way, there is an issue here.
Yeah, and you got to think about people who aren't fans of hockey and say they're just reading the news. They're not even sports fans, and they're seeing these stories out of hockey, and they're like, oh, there's nothing really going on with the pandemic, but NHL's making news. Oh, this NHL player said all these things in a group chat, and this is what's making news?
Yeah.
That's terrible for the sport.
Terrible.
I'd be curious to know, like, an outlet in the States is probably not going to do much talk about the Calgary Flames. But they might talk about that story.
Yeah. Especially now.
Be the lead story.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a tough look.
It is.
Don't do that.
It is a tough look. And I can understand why people can extrapolate that and go, well, that's all of hockey culture. Even if it isn't. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to stamp it out, frankly.
And you feel especially for like the people they targeted, like women. Like, if you're a woman, you look at that and you're like,
who are handling it really well, like with grace and everything.
Like you can't. I think Sarah Sivian had a good tweet about, and I'm paraphrasing Sarah, so apologies if you do hear this, but she said it doesn't matter what you do, they're coming after you anyway. And like, it doesn't matter how great you are, how good looking, how smart, how many awards you win. They're coming after you anyway.
Picture of my tummy. Yeah.
And picture of this beautiful woman who's pregnant, and they're ripping it apart. And again, I go back to, there's something wrong up here. I just don't think that that's what a normal person does. And
to go along with the, you almost feel bad for them sort of thing, that they're clearly holding on to something in there. Man, surround yourself with better friends.
Yeah.
Surround yourself. It is some people were so close to getting it. They were so close. They're like, surround yourself with friends who aren't going to leak conversations like that. Oh, no, you were right there.
Barnaby.
You were right there.
Matt Barnaby.
No.
That's what Matt Barnaby said.
I know. Oh, and he's right there. He's right there. You're so close, Matt.
The problem. See, that's the bigger problem to me. That's the bigger problem with hockey culture is, when you don't understand instantaneously why that's wrong, forget the friends leaking it. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That's the more insidious issue. It's, we know it's wrong, but we should say it anyway. That's the insidious problem. That's where people go, okay, so you're not an ally. You're not somebody that wants to include people and treat. Oh no, you're fine with them being not treated decently. It's just, don't leak the chat.
You don't get it.
Yeah. You're so close. You're so close.
And that's the problem, is that a lot of people are in the Barnaby corner. And it's unfair to just label him with that. He was just the most prominent name to speak on.
He said it. Yeah.
He did say it. And I think that's the issue. It's the most people know what they said was horrible and wrong. Most people, but there was a good segment of the population that doesn't understand. Oh, it's more than just not having friends that'll leak a conversation, which is crazy. That's also like, come on, right out of left field. So anyway, we're gonna move on from that. Leafs have lost their assistant coach, but not yet. Paul McFarland, who is the head of the power play, who was brought in from the Florida Panthers last year, will leave at the end of the season, whenever that is, whenever the 24-team playoff format that Steve adores happens. He's going to go back to Kingston. He's going to be the Frontenac's head coach, and he had some major success there.
Yep.
So he wants to go back. Now, what's interesting about this, he said that he feels a little bit more like he fits in a head coaching role. The problem is, when you're in the NHL, your best shot at being a head coach is being an assistant coach, right?
Generally.
Now,
yes.
The Leafs did just replace their head coach, so you can understand how maybe, I probably don't have a shot here at that. The problem is getting there, making the jump from the O to the NHL is really tough. And I have to wonder if, because you make pretty good money being a coach in the OHL. And you're living in Kingston, which is a beautiful city, and he clearly loves it there. You have to wonder if there's some family motivation here. It's a great place for kids to grow up. It's an amazing community, amazing in the summertime, great in the winter too. You have to wonder if Paul McFarland was probably like, you know what, I don't need this shit, because there's a lot of shit that goes along with playing in the NHL, especially in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And if he wants to be the guy, and he can't be the guy in the NHL, and he can make a good living in a smaller city doing it in the O, and he wants to mentor younger minds, I can understand that.
Well, and like John Hines, when he was hired in New Jersey, like one of the reasons supposedly that was leaked that teams weren't so sure about hiring him is his voice was too high, and they didn't think anyone would listen to him. So let me throw this out there. How old do you guys think Paul McFarland is?
Oh, I think he looked like he was in his early 40s to me.
Jesse?
35.
He is 34.
Wow. Dude,
so
I'm like 2 years younger than Paul McFarland. Oh my god!
Right? Yeah, dude. I had no idea until I just looked it up. Now I just thought he was
about the same ages as the coaches.
Yeah,
God.
We thought he was just a hot 40-year-old, but it turns out he's a run-of-the-mill 34-year-old. No. But the thing with him, going to the O for a head coach job, that might actually be the better path to the NHL, because even though he's been a relatively successful assistant for a few years now, how many NHL teams out there do you see hiring a 34-year-old head coach? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying, do you think they would do that? How old is Sheldon Keefe? He's like 42?
42. And he'd be among the youngest, wouldn't he?
He has to be. Has to be. 39. And there's exceptions. You know, Paul Maurice was like 28 or something when he started. He was ridiculously young.
He was 14.
He's 14.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Grade 7.
Yeah.
Assistant coach was Neil Patrick Harris. It was unbelievable. Yeah, it might be the better thing for him. He can go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It might be the better thing
and
for
you
him.
know what? If he has a young family, it's a great place for them to spend their formative years until he is ready to make that jump to the NHL.
He was an assistant coach in the NHL at 31.
Wow.
Or it might have even been 30 because he's got a December birthday. Like he could go to Kingston, spend 4 years there, like I think he's got a 4-year contract, and then restart his entire career and still be ahead of most people.
Well, he'd still be the youngest coach in the NHL.
Yeah,
at
like
38.
Yes. And I should also say the amount of years on the contract, they don't matter.
Right.
Guy Boucher, when I was covering junior, he was like the number one coach in the CHL or whatever. I think he won a championship with the Drummondville Voltigeur, signed a 5-year extension, and I think he was gone in like 6 months.
Yeah.
Or something like that. The amount of – it doesn't matter.
It's just if you happen to still be here, here's how long it'll last.
If like the Calgary Flames come out and say – we're hiring Paul McFarland, there will be no whoa, whoa, whoa. We are the Kingston Frontenacs. And we say absolutely not. Yeah, there will be none of that.
By the way, Jeremy Colleton in Chicago is 33.
Oh.
That's right. And how much shit is he taking? How much shit is he taking for –
a lot in Chicago.
Yeah, but they struggled with him to start. You know, Joel Quenneville. I mean –
they were
talk about a tough
anyway.
gig. You're in your early 30s and you're replacing Joel Quenneville. Yeah, fun. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
And then
Who
they were
was
garbage.
60 when they got rid of him.
Hilarious. Almost twice his age. And they were garbage out of the gate. And one of the reasons is like, well, you know, it's too young. It's too young.
Mm.
And then they got hot.
Mm-hmm.
They got hot towards the end of the season. And what? Now he's too old? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, it's like
How does that work?
Same thing.
There's
several papers and several writers in the city that are like, he's under 40, so we just don't like him.
Yeah. John Chayka. Well, and sometimes you just replace a guy everyone likes and no one likes you.
Yeah, true.
You know, unless you're Stan Bowman and you have the at least you're Scotty Bowman's kid treatment. And people just sort of whisper it. But like it's for the
He made good moves. I'm defending Stan Bowman. He made some great moves, dude.
He's got his rings.
Sure.
Why are you taking shots at him?
I'm not taking shots at him. I'm just saying lots of people get the shitty treatment, and he avoided it for the most part.
There are shots to be
name?
taken at Stan
Yes,
Bowman.
100% because of his last name.
Is that the only reason?
I think
maybe
he's
he
done
won.
well. He's done well.
Maybe he has a couple of cup rings.
Maybe he could have more if he was older.
Is Dale? How much did Dale Talon do there versus Stan? Like, when was Dale Talon the GM? And then
Depends who you ask. Depends who you ask. Some say everything.
Okay. Because Stan took over right at the beginning, right, of the dynasty.
Didn't Dale Talon win one?
No, I think Stan Bowman was technically the GM for all three.
Yeah.
And Dale Talon got fired right before.
It was very iffy on the first one.
Sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever gave him a ring.
But Dale Talon's a wild man too. He's crazy with some of the contracts he signed. So
he's certainly fun.
The Leafs power play, though, when we were watching this year, if you were to, Paul McFarland was supposed to come in and like sort of, we were hoping at least revolutionize this, what should be a supercharged power play, especially that top unit. And I don't know about you, but I felt like I was watching a very disjointed group most of the season. And I looked it up. They had the 6th best power play when the season stopped.
Yeah.
But that's too low. The Leafs should be...
But
with $40 million on their power play, they should be top.
We
top
found
3.
out that Babcock wouldn't let McFarland cook, like he wouldn't let him do his own thing. And once Babcock left, we kind of saw the power play open up a little.
Wait, was Mike Babcock controlling? Are you trying to tell me that? Mike Babcock had his finger and everything? No way.
Well, that was unbelievable. The second Babcock got fired, they took a lefty guy and a righty guy, and they went, "What if we switch Whoa! Wow! Wish we had tried that 3 years ago. That was the most amazing thing. But pay your NHL coach minimum wage. Like if that's the kind of pull, holy shit! Like it takes you 3 years to make that decision. Mm-hmm. But like I don't know. I saw some things getting like unfairly attributed to Paul McFarland as well, like the drop pass. The drop pass was around long before Paul McFarland.
That's been a Leaf thing for 4 years, and it's always been bad.
Yeah. Well, we think it's been bad. They have the 6th best penalty power play, in the NHL.
They bought it. They should have the top 3. That's why the coach is there.
But what if the difference between 6 and 1 is negligible, and you can't buy the first power play in the league because the puck is made of rubber?
But it isn't. Because the Leafs are at about 23%. The number 1 power play in the league is at about 29.
Who is that?
Let me look it up.
Tampa or Boston?
I think it's Boston. Is it Tampa?
My bet's Tampa.
NHL, NHL.com.
Detroit. Wow.
Shut up.
Everybody's like, what? No way. Hang on.
Here, I got it in front of me. It's the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay.
They're at 29.5%.
And they bought it.
It's Edmonton, Boston, St. Louis, Vancouver, Tampa, Toronto.
Right.
No surprises there, really. Vancouver, you could go, what? And then you remember they have Pettersson and Hughes, and all of a sudden you're not asking what anymore.
Yeah, and Toronto was tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning at 23.1%.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not bad. Not great.
He helped a very good power play. But it would be interesting, sort of to Adam's point, or maybe I'm bastardizing Adam's point, but it would be interesting to see a new guy come in and there's not much difference on account of they have the most ridiculous talent in the league.
Right.
Or some of the most ridiculous
talent. Well, this one. Edmonton leads the league in power play percentage and are second in the league in penalty kill percentage.
Isn't that so weird?
Good for them.
Remember they had a historically bad, what was it, home penalty kill percentage?
Yeah, it was like 50%. It was worst all time since the stat had been tracked.
It was a death sentence. It was and then they go on the road and they were like normal. But like it was so weird.
Let me throw this at you too. Year over year, Toronto's power play is up. It looks like 3 percentage points. Because they're at what? What's their number? It's 24%?
Or 23.1.
So they're at 23.1. Last year they finished at 21.8. So it's about 1.5%. But all the same, that's a big deal. They went from 8th to 6th. That's good. So Paul McFarland with some good, and it'll be interesting for Sheldon Keefe because he's got an opportunity here to add to a staff that he didn't have any part in picking. And you have to wonder, who comes into that role, who he's got his eye on, and I'm sure they've got a bazillion candidates. And I wonder how much leeway Kyle Dubas gives him. Is this going to be a Kyle Dubas decision, or is it going to be a Sheldon Keefe one, or is it going to be one together, but who's got the ultimate call, right? Because in every decision, it's like, well, it's a team call until we disagree, and then it's my call.
And in terms of calling, someone up from the Marlies, who not calling them up, but Sheldon Keefe bringing up one of his assistants from the Marlies, worth noting, and I'm not saying it was their fault, but the Marlies were awful after Sheldon Keefe left. Awful. They were one of the worst teams in the American Hockey League, which ceased operations today.
Yep.
For this season anyway. Very interesting. Very interesting. But it's okay. The Leafs have Mikko Lehtinen, who is going to lead them to the first-ranked power play in the world starting next week, says Dana White.
The Canadiens have signed what they were calling the Destroyer. Alexander Romanov, who NHL executives have compared to the next Drew Dowding. Now, Eric Engels had a very funny tweet about this. The Canadiens reached out to clarify that the management team doesn't refer to him as the Destroyer, as was previously reported. Turns out, Eric said, he said, turns out I was misinformed on that name a few weeks back. They call him the Assassin, quote, because he kills all the plays. And I'm assuming he kills them in a good way. He's just really bad.
As soon as shoots plays,
he just assassinates our plays.
Touches his stick and it's over. He just kills it dead. It's dead.
What? He's like a next level Jay McClement. Jared Smithson
headbutts a play and he goes bon anniversaire, like Zinedine Zidane in Family Guy. And here's okay. We want to talk about how much the NHL has changed. Let's not go the Brett Hull route. Let's go the Alexander Romanov route.
Mhm.
In 86 KHL games over the past 2 seasons, he played 43 and 43. I want you to guess how many points this guy's got. This is a highly ranked prospect. He's 20
On the best
years
team.
old. On the
50.
best team. Yeah, granted, on the best team. You think he had 50 points over
50.
83
I'm not
games?
taking that away from him. He's 20 years old, and he found ice time on the best team in Russia. That's not easy.
Totally.
I'm
And
going to
he's
say
5'11", 182 pounds, 20 years old, 86 games over the
50,
past 2
20
seasons in the
pounds.
KHL, and he's being, I think it was Greg Button was comparing him to Sandin.
Craig
I would say
Buble.
We love Sandin. So
I'm going to say 40 points. 20 each season.
Jesse said 50, you say 40. 11.
Oh, wow.
What?
That's
Last
shocking.
season in 43
What?
games.
Woo!
Last season in 43 games, he had 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points. Only 12 penalty minutes.
Wow.
And this season, 0 goals, 7 assists, and only 14 penalty minutes.
How many games?
43. 0 goals.
What
So,
does that mean?
but all he does is disrupt plays, right? So this is they're looking at a guy, they're looking at a defenseman and evaluating him and hyping him and not using points to do so.
Right. Which is good.
Which is good. I would all these zone entry denials and breakups and all those stats that are so good and so important. God, I would love to see them for junior and the European leagues.
Right.
Mhm.
And like to even get into, like you were saying, to even get into 86 games over 2 seasons, he turned 20 in January.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the KHL, that's really rare and really hard to do.
Mhm.
So it looks like the Habs got a gem.
Yeah, well, and it'll be great for Carey Price. You know, you like imagine this guy plays with a guy like Jeff Petrie coming off the season Petrie had, assuming he stays there. Wait, he's got 1 more year, doesn't he? He's got 1 more year. But like,
He's
there's
a
a
lefty.
yeah. Well, you know, and that's the thing. Like, here's a guy that's a good defensive hockey player. Well, it'll be fun to see.
If anyone in Montreal is like, he's a lefty, so throw him in the garbage. Doesn't matter. Like they were with Lettinen. No, actually, they need lefties really bad.
do.
But I am fascinated to see this guy play because so often guys come from the European leagues and KHL, and you look at their points, and they're just going to score. This guy's got 11 points in 86 games. I'm fascinated to see how that translates into the NHL. Maybe he's one of those guys who does nothing in the KHL, comes over to the NHL, and all of a sudden he's scoring at a point per game for no good reason.
Yeah. Lastly, the KHL will not name a Gagarin Cup champion. They have canceled the season.
Fair.
Interesting. So the AHL has stopped. The KHL has stopped. The NHL is still hanging on for dear life. Let's do the press conference.
And UFC has continued without stoppage, which is unbelievable.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys caught any of that this weekend.
The
But
fighter had to pull out, didn't he? Because he got coronavirus.
Jacare Souza
yeah.
I don't know what that
and
means.
2 members of his corner, had to pull out because they tested positive.
But
And
the
no one else at the event got it somehow.
the fights happened, and Joe Rogan was hopping in the ring, just hugging on the sweaty guys, just not caring. It was awesome.
I mean,
I guess if you've been tested, it doesn't matter. Right?
Right.
I don't know.
I don't think it
I
matters.
don't know.
If you've been tested and you're negative, you can hug anyone you want.
All
Yeah,
I
but
know
like
is
negative.
all I know is not even a pandemic will stop Dana White.
No.
No, I mean, you can accomplish everything if you just don't fucking care.
Yeah. The American way, man.
We have a question here from Scott Jansen. Scott says, you are the GM of the Leafs. You get 1 free trade with anyone in the league, 1 for 1. The positions have to be the same, and the trade has to work within the salary cap.
Oh.
Make your trade, Steve and Adam.
And it's got to be 1 for 1.
But does it have to be fair?
No, it just has to work on the salary cap and has to be 1 position for 1 position.
Well, the Leafs have no room, so it's going to have to be something small.
I was thinking when I saw this, John Tavares for Connor McDavid.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Interesting.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And it's nothing against John Tavares, but goddamn.
Yeah.
He's the best player in the league, son.
I was going to shoot small and say Freddie for Matt Murray, but
that
yeah.
would work.
No, but you have every team in the league, and that's the one you pick?
I don't know, man. I was just trying to make it work in the salary cap.
Figure it out then.
I don't know.
Steve doesn't like your answer.
Here's what you're not getting. This is the internet, and there is a right answer. You chose the wrong one.
We're gonna start a list of things Steve doesn't like, and I'll just keep writing them down. And
Adam, the words coming out of Adam's mouth at any given moment.
Dude, that's the whole Reddit page. You should join them.
I know.
Yeah, here I am trying to be like pragmatic. Jesse, what's yours?
John Tavares for Connor McDavid.
Oh, okay. So you both do. Okay, cool. All right. No, Steve, don't think of another one. Let's continue.
Oh, okay.
All right, Adam, this one's for you. I thought it was very funny.
Here we go.
It's from Twitter user OJetsO. They said, in 2016, my friend heard Adam state that he would not trade Jake Gardiner for Jacob Trouba, to which he immediately stopped listening to the podcast. Would Adam like to apologize?
No, I wouldn't. No, because Jake Trouba didn't want to be here. I mean, it might have worked, but I don't think the problem was at the time that he wasn't even going to re-sign in Winnipeg. They made him, but the point was he wanted to go to New York, and the context of that conversation was that we want people to want to be here and play for the Leafs. And in 2016, nobody fucking wanted to play for the Leafs. So why would we bring in a guy with a bunch of young players who doesn't want to be here? It's too bad he stopped listening, because we have had some fucking phenomenal moments. Like this has been a fucking show has been on fire for 4 years. Just listen. Here's how I look at it. His loss, not ours.
It's a ridiculous statement.
No. I feel
if
bad,
that
though.
was going to be the thing that broke the straw that broke the camel's back for you listening to this show, you probably would have stopped listening the next week anyway when I said something you didn't agree with. It just sounds like you're kind of a baby.
No. Whoa, Adam, that's way too harsh. That's a former listener of ours, man. That's a former listener.
I'm sorry.
And now he's got this chasm in his life that he's got to fill. He was listening to our show.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's he going to listen to? So I actually Googled something and have some suggestions. These are the 9 best podcasts for new parents, since this guy's obviously still a baby. So I guess he can forward this to his parents. There's Baby Talk.
You guys are
short,
mean.
snappy episodes dedicated to one
mean.
topic at a time. Everything from IVF to twins to meningitis to calm birth. Make this podcast valuable, satisfying listening.
That actually sounds like a good podcast.
Talk. It absolutely does. How about Hello Bump? This 10-part podcast focuses on 1 month of pregnancy per episode, with a bonus episode about the first 6 weeks of your baby's life. And continue. Isn't that great to have a podcast about your life?
I got a show he could check out. It's called The Wiggles.
Wow.
God.
That's
Maybe
a good one.
I don't know.
How about Dads Don't Know? This trio of Australian dads is navigating the perils and pitfalls, as well as the pleasures, of parenting with humor.
You're targeting the wrong audience. He's not a parent.
Bunch of meanies.
Anyway, listen. The reality is, don't bring in a player to a young core like the Toronto Maple Leafs who doesn't fucking want to be here. You need guys who want to be here, like hell yeah, playing in Toronto, and who are going to bring Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander along. You can't have a guy who's like, I don't want to fucking be here. I'd rather be in New York. Isn't New York so much better? No, I don't want to. I just don't think that would have fit. Sorry. That's just what I think. Trouba is fucking awesome. He wanted to be in New York.
So wait, he was saying, so
This
you
is
said
16.
you wouldn't trade Gardiner for Trouba straight up, and he
Because
shit
of
his
that.
pants because
Yes.
he thinks Trouba's way better.
Well, yeah, and he might be. But the reality was you don't bring in a personality who doesn't want to be here. Nobody wanted to play here. Remember?
Can I go to the next question?
Anyway,
That's disagreeable at the top. That's not, I'm going to fucking drop your show forever. Shut up.
David
fill your diaper.
Sherman.
Wiggles, man. Check it out.
David Sherman wanted to know, do you and Adam miss your Wednesday morning routine of watching ice surfing? Yes, David. We do.
You know, there was some really great content there, and I'm excited for it to come back during the 24-team playoff format that inevitably is going to hit us. Steve, your Tuesdays are going to be back, and I can't wait. And you know what's cool about ice surfing is actually you guys could do that easily from home. Perfect.
Yeah, I desperately want to know what Jason York thinks.
I think he's got great stories.
And I haven't been getting enough Yorkie stories. So
I feel bad.
I need my fix.
I feel bad that there's now a hole in your life that ice surfing cannot fill. So can I suggest Feed, Play, Love? From nurturing newborns to taming toddlers, we unravel the art and science of parenting with real-life stories and expert advice.
It's not as good as ice surfing.
And then afterwards, turn your hat upside down and shit in it. And put it back on.
Let me throw this out there too, just because I think it's a relevant tweet to anything Leafs. This has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but Marlies GM Lawrence Gilman told Luke Fox today. He says he'd be surprised if Timothy Liljegren doesn't play in the Leafs top 7 or 8 next season, but the player has to hold up his end of the bargain. So I don't know what that means. Impressed with Liljegren's steps in processing and reading the game.
You got to push.
Yeah,
you got to push young players, which is not abnormal.
That would be really nice if he did. We need the right shot guy.
They desperately need
and I don't know what else he needs to do with the Marlies. Like he's got to take the step at some point to see if he's a player or not.
Just get better. Like we keep where the hell is Lettinen going to fit in? And
just play the best 6, man.
And Dermott but it's Liljegren's job to become one of the best 6.
Yep, because Sandin is.
It is. Yeah, and imagine if they both progress and Liljegren's awesome, and then you throw them out there as a pair.
If Liljegren's even a top 6 defenseman at this point, I'm happy. Just be a right shot guy. Please, God. Anyway, continue, Jesse.
This one's for me to get on my soapbox about something I think is long overdue. Jimmy O'Neill writes, if the GTA was ever to get its second NHL team, what percentage of Leafs fans would migrate over? And my opinion has always been it's long overdue for the NHL to have a second team in the GTA. I think you look at the other sports. You look at New York has 2 basketball teams, 2 football teams, 2 baseball teams. LA's got 2 basketball teams. California has 4 football teams up until last year, and then Oakland's moving, but still. And I think hockey can survive here with another team. I think you see it.
I think it makes sense in the West End, Oakville, Mississauga, that sort of area. But the answer to his question is who defects? Just the dicks.
Yeah. But it'd be awesome.
Just the dicks. Yeah. If there's a second team in the GTA, I instantly fucking hate them.
And maybe straight up children, because there's no allegiance there. They don't care.
Dick children.
Yeah, the kids who grew up in that area. Dick children.
Where do they play? Because if they play somewhere out in the suburbs,
hasn't been built yet.
That changes it. Right.
Yeah, the place this team is going to play doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's an empty lot somewhere.
I think you got enough money in Oakville, Mississauga that you could make it work for sure.
Is the Scotiabank Arena possible?
It would have to be, but the problem with the Scotiabank Arena is that it's busy 300 nights a year already.
Too many nights are taken up.
Does the Staples Center not have that problem?
They have too many. They have so many arenas in that same little area in LA that you can divert concerts to like the LA Forum. I forget the other one that's called, but they have there's 4.
The Hollywood Bowl.
Hollywood Bowl. That's the one I'm thinking about. Yeah, they
can do that all year.
Concerts. Yeah,
right. In Toronto, we can't, and we have a 15,000 person venue that's outside. But like in LA, you can go to a concert in December outside.
Oh, true.
Right, you can't do that here.
True.
So I also think it actually would be good for concerts and stuff going through town because a lot of times they have to go to Hamilton, and a lot of GTA people, like Hamilton's technically, I guess, GTA, but it's sort of I don't think Hamiltonians see it that way, and it's also just a little bit beyond what people want to drive to go see a concert. So if you could say, hey guys, we were putting an arena in Mississauga, I think you would have bands come in and they would do a night in Toronto and a night in Mississauga, or 2 nights in one, 2 nights in the other. You know what I mean? Big ones. So I think there'd be a lot of room for that. And the one thing is, though, the NHL is never going to do that. And the reason why is that the NHL's big cash cow outside of the Rangers is the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you threaten the Toronto Maple Leafs income, you threaten the NHL's income. So it'll never happen. It will never, ever, 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 ever happen, ever.
Adam, you might know the answer to this, but I'm going to throw this at Jesse. Why doesn't anyone in Mississauga go to anything?
That's a good
They do.
question. What
Do they?
They come to Toronto stuff, right?
No, they
come
they
to Toronto to go to
train.
stuff.
Yeah.
No, but there's the friggin' Hershey Center. And
Oh well, the Hershey Center is in the worst location, or Paramount Food Center is in the worst location in the entire city of Mississauga.
Is that what it's called now?
It's the Paramount Food Center. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
By the way, shout out Paramount. They're so good.
Yeah, delicious.
Yes, that's true.
It's literally in the middle of nowhere, Mississauga. Like you can't get a worse place. There's no off ramp from the highway. Like it's poorly built.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
And then, yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
And then, so they didn't make it central. It's not close to downtown Mississauga or whatever that would be. And it's not close to any of the suburbs. So there's no one around there. And the second thing is nothing good happens there unless you're a fan of the Raptors 905. And when the Raptors 905 won the G League championship, they did sell out games. Like it's a G League, but it was 5,000 fans, 4,000 fans in there, which is okay. I went to a game when it was they had a Drake night where it wasn't Drake night, it was Degrassi night where they all wore the Degrassi uniforms, and you got a free Degrassi t-shirt, and that's the night. And I won the 50-50 draw that night.
Yes. How much was that? It was like $2,000.
It was a couple $1,000.
Great.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's sick.
So they when they have those things, people do go out. It's just.
If you were to pick a member of this show who's going to win a 50-50, would it not be Jesse?
Oh, my God. 100% Jesse.
Of course it was. They're like, that's the most handsome lottery winner I've ever seen in my life.
Jesse is one of those, I don't know exactly what to call it, but you have a lucky aura. You know what I mean? I have an uncle who has a lucky aura, and that freaking guy won the lottery too.
You won the lottery?
He won a scratch ticket.
That's not
won like 36 G's on a scratch ticket. This is my same uncle who I wrote about in the book. He, while he was waiting for his daughter to be born, he's just flipping through the only magazine that was there, which was a Kids Sports Illustrated. And there was a Tiger Woods rookie card in it, and he sold it for $3,000.
Wow. That's crazy.
But golf cards? That's the
I
bigger
didn't
news
know
here.
that either, but he found a Tiger Woods rookie card and he sold it for $3,000.
Like every golf fan is over the age of 45. So there's some guy with a fucking collection of golf cards?
And he's got one from my Uncle Lenny who sold it for $3,000. To go to Jesse's point, it's kind of wild. Why doesn't Mississauga have a much better placed arena? Mississauga, for those who don't know, there's so many people.
It's
like from the States, you
probably
probably
in Canada.
Yeah, you've probably never heard of it.
Bigger than Calgary?
Yeah.
It's got 828,000 people.
Calgary's bigger. Calgary's like 1.2 million.
828,000 people. Brampton's 600,000, and it's right next door.
And Oakville's got another 700,000 probably.
Hamilton's down the road, and it's 579. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to get a better arena in there.
For anybody who knows the Mississauga area, if they had some sort of big venue down by Square One, like the bus terminal is, which is just a straight shot to downtown, and then the biggest mall in Ontario, and you threw a 10,000, 12,000 seat arena there, they would get stuff all the time.
Fuck it, 20.
But 20, who cares? Throw a hockey team in there. But
based on population. Based on population, you can have a Big Four team.
Yep.
Yeah.
You should. But the Leafs are going to be like, no.
They'd block that forever.
It'll probably make it difficult, yeah.
Continue, Jesse.
How many bananas could you eat in 10 minutes?
Oh, for fuck.
That's from Steven.
I think I could eat more bananas than I could hot dogs. It just seems more digestible. I just feel like if you have too many bananas, though, do you not get a little constipated? Is that not? I'd be more worried about the bananas, honestly, than the hot dogs.
I don't know.
Because constipation is not fun. That's no joke.
Do you want to? I don't know. There's only one way to find out.
No, I'm not going to find out.
Bridge Stew 66 wants to know if we're going to have a Pan and Go Pizza eating contest.
Oh, for God's sakes. That's you. That's Jesse. That is Jesse's
not my
alter ego on Reddit. He suggested this, and we're like, dude, no, we love Pan and Go Pizza. I don't want to love Pan and Go Pizza. This would just crush me.
Yeah, like I'll slam hot dogs that I don't like swallow them like a duck without even chewing them. Panago, I want to savor. I want to, yes.
And here's the thing. Steve and I, it's my like every time I post a picture on the internet, you get at least one person like, you're a fat bitch. And then, and fucking Jesse's like, eat a bunch of hot dogs. Okay, now eat a bunch of pizza.
Yeah, but it'd be fun.
Yeah, well, you're not getting the DMs I'm getting, man.
All right there, Slender Man. Yeah, we'll go with your idea. You go put on a tux and be creepy in the woods, you bastard.
Jesse is the walking 5G tower that I keep. Have you seen
What
that?
is that?
No.
Everybody thinks so. They've taken Slender Man and they've put him on they've taken a 5G tower and they've made Slender Man the big, like, it's a joke, but it's basically like, you know, the internet thing around Slender Man, and it's like and Slender Man, it's like the world if they allow 5G, and you just see a couple of 5G towers walking towards you.
Oh,
and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, that's why.
That was very good.
That's so good.
Jim wants to know, Steve, how he can get an autographed copy of your book. He said he wants to buy 2 copies and he wants one autographed.
Only one
Or
though,
both.
because he knows it'll take several years to get the second.
Yeah, I got a bunch. Cat walking by Adam. Sorry. Sorry, your shoulder's action-packed today, Adam. There's squirrels, there's cats. There's
Yeah, that cat
Pure
always
Later
hangs
truck,
out
though.
there. That cat, that's William, by the way. It's a neighborhood cat.
Oh, Billy.
Willie.
That's nice. Steve Dangle book at gmail.com. I haven't checked it in a very long time because there's been a pandemic. Maybe I should fire that back up because I got a couple dozen books. I got like 40 books. Yeah.
Steve
And I got to move them.
What is
Steve
the
Dangle
email?
Steve Dangle book at gmail.com.
I bet there's like several requests in there that Steve just hasn't checked.
Shit.
You want to talk about
Probably
the
is.
worst email checker ever? Steve Dangle.
I'm
I have to. So I forward emails to him and his wife, and then I text them both to just say, "Hey, I forwarded Steve an email."
Oh, I know. Oh, and anytime I get an email that's longer than a paragraph, I'm like, this is a hostage situation. Why are you doing this to me? Like,
So,
and
I only text SL or your Mrs. Dangle because I want to make sure that she reminds you, because you'll look at it and go, it's gone, and
I
it's
know.
gone. And so I have to make sure she reminds you later to check it.
and then she'll check something, and if she forgets it, forget it. If it doesn't have the blue dot next to it, it's
over.
lost. It's lost to the wind of time forever.
Jesse,
Adam, do you think it'd be a shame if people signed up stevedangleBook at gmail.com?
No, don't do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Jesse, for the love of God, take that
Tim
out.
McGraw fan club.
Please. Oh my God. Jesse, please. I'm already signed up for fucking Plenty of Fish. Please take it out. Oh my God. Jesse, no.
It would just be such a shame, man. It would be terrible.
It would
Jesse,
be terrible.
Jesse, no.
Oh, no. What if I
Please.
just keep this in the podcast?
Oh man, you know
no.
who'll never hear about
No.
it? That guy who didn't like my take on Jake Gardner and Jacob Trouba. Such a shame.
You'll never hear it. No,
They'll never
no.
hear that. He'll never
No.
hear how funny that
You'll
was.
never know to sign up stevedangleBook at gmail.com to a bunch of mailing lists.
Ah! Legit, though.
You know what,
Please
Steve?
don't.
You'll never know anay.
Yeah, you'll never check.
We used it. We sold a big old bunch of books.
Yeah, then you just stop checking.
The world stopped.
Yep, and they stopped reading too.
Please.
No, I think I'll keep this in.
Please. No, I'm begging you.
Do you have any more questions, Jess?
I'm good.
Okay, if you have any History Corner questions,
Do not do that.
History Corner questions, feel free to send them to Jesse. Please don't send them to me. The whole
Who's that
point of the
guy?
History Corner is that I'm supposed to do it off the top of my head. And for
Adam, who's
everybody
that
that's
guy?
like, actually, you got this detail wrong. I know. It's off the top of my head, and you already know how bad I am with details. So, but I do appreciate the corrections that are kind. You jerks are still jerks. That's all I'm saying.
And we'll do a extra long one on Wednesday.
Excellente. That's 2 days from now. Steve?
You're so good. Like, I screamed, "Who's that guy?" and you just went through it. You just went right through it.
It's weird. It seems like your volume's been it like when the volume gets too high, your mic just cuts it off.
That's for the best.
It's wild. Anyway, we will see you Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening, watching. Like if you really liked it, subscribe if you super liked it. Don't forget to smash that like button.
And if you didn't like the show, can I suggest Scummy Mummies? For those who want to laugh out loud, check out the award-winning and wildly popular Scummy Mummies.
The Steve Dangle
And I would
Podcast.
say
Follow the
Sesame
guys
Street
on
is a
Twitter
good option for
at
you.
Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness. Connection complete.